Yeah, you're going blind up here. Okay, we're going to get started. Hello, everybody. I'm Jay. Jay Wetter, Canola Council. I don't want to give you any more of that. You've heard it many times. This is where we get the farmers to talk about what they heard over the past day, actually 2 days. We're going to talk about profitability, of course. But I suggested we go coffee shop talk and just keep it casual. But Patricia was worried that we were going to get too negative. But that's okay. I kind of like that. Well, because we can also learn from the negative scenarios. In fact, maybe we learn more, especially if we're free to talk about them. I'm not saying you have to go negative, guys, but maybe we could try it out a little bit. Who are these people? Jason Kehler from between Elm Creek and Carmen. There you are. Between Elm Creek and Carmen, Manitoba. I asked a few little primer questions, a bit of background. So Jason's got a combination of black soil, a bit of brown, and a bit of Alma-Sippy sand. You got quite a combo there. Land prices, $8,000 to $12,000 an acre. Does that sound right? A little high? Okay. Jason's combo crop rotation is potatoes, corn, canola, wheat, oats, and then some ryegrass, and then some cattle to eat that ryegrass.
Cattle don't eat the ryegrass,
What do they eat?
We actually seed forage to graze cattle. But whatever.
Okay, so you didn't put that on the list. Forage. Okay, Patricia Lung, Lake Lenore Lake. I wrote down Lenore Lake. Humboldt area, let's just say. Black, gray wooded soils. 60 bushel per acre, 55 to 65, so high 50s, low 60s is a good yield. Patricia's good yield is 60, so more or less in the ballpark. 44 is the break even, good to have that info. So 40, we're like most years, the Canadian average is not 44, and that is the break even. And this is why we're having a profitability discussion today. 6,000 an acre or so in the area. Patricia's rotation is canola, wheat, barley, oats, flax, peas. Got it? Allen, Hampton, Rowley, Alberta. Dark brown soil zone. 50 is a good canola yield. Allen says that 18 quarters just sold in the area for $8,500 an acre. Like, that's a massive check. Yeah. And Allen's crop rotation is canola, hard red spring, and malting barley, and has dabbled in peas and flax, but hasn't done them lately. Anthony Eliason, Outlook, Saskatchewan. All four of these are on their provincial canola grower board, so I really appreciate all four of you being here. Anthony, Outlook, Saskatchewan has a combination of irrigated and non-irrigated land, about 2,000 acres under irrigation. Dark brown soil zone, canola, wheat, peas, and flax are the four main crops, but Anthony will also try out some other specialty crops from time to time. So a great farm in that he's got irrigated and non-irrigated. Irrigated canola does 70, non-irrigated 20. Very interesting area. And then the dry land sells for $1,200 to $2,000 an acre, and the irrigated land sells for $6,500 to $9,000. Okay, so we're setting the groundwork. My first question for you, I didn't have it on the list, so I'm going rogue. Is there anything you heard over the past 2 days that kind of annoyed you or raised your hackles on the back of your neck? Anything that you think, you know what, they're not hearing me as a farmer? Is there anything? And we don't have to go in order. Just jump in if you can think of something. Something you want researchers or agronomists, who are the two biggest groups who tend to come to this event, to know.
It's been discussed already over the last 2 days. There is this gap where we have 10 years for some of these research before we'll see it on the farm. And we, as research committees, we understand that when we're funding these projects that this sounds great, hopefully I'll see it in my lifetime on my farm, so I'm going to fund it. And then we'll all turn around and we'll have Saskatchewan has the ADF and adopt programs where we're going to see stuff 1 year, 2 year turnarounds, and we'll also fund those because those are great. We'll see them. They're wins to the farmers. But we're really missing that 3 5-year turnaround projects. We're really not seeing them come across our desks to even fund. So we're missing that. So that'd be something I'd like to see more of.
See, I thought all of the projects were 3 to 5 years.
The research project takes 3
Yeah.
to 5 years, but before the farmer sees it,
Okay.
we're talking a decade.
So what's the lag?
The scope of the project is getting to be very, very high level, or it's going to be very agronomic. We don't have that commercialization, which has been talked about,
Yeah.
and we don't have a lot of projects coming across that even could be something that could be those short-term wins.
And what would you like? What's your need? Is there something that it's out there you're waiting for?
I have asked some chemical companies for higher levels of resistance to Liberty, like get to that 2-liter rate. They told me they're not doing it. That goes to the discussions on weed controls. A lot of times I don't have the time to spray 2 passes, so I only have the time to spray 1 pass. I do it right, but I only have time to do 1 pass. And sometimes it's not enough. And then the other one would be some way of insect control. BT was a huge thing 20 years ago, and it's totally disappeared. I was wondering if there was ever a way to bring that in, if not for the flea beetles, but for like Diamondback and Bertha.
Okay. And are flea beetles your number one, followed by Diamondback and Bertha, or how would you rank your insects? Or is it
My area, it's grasshoppers. It's always
Grasshoppers,
number
okay.
1, and then Bertha and Diamondback.
so flea beetles are not even in the top 3?
Not even. They're minor. They're there, but
Yeah.
the seed treatments are working, and
Yeah.
they're doing what we need to do.
Okay. We'll come back to all those, Anthony. Anything that made you annoyed? Pretend we're at a coffee shop and then nobody's out here listening to us. It's just us. Just us.
At the curling rink
Yeah, that's right.
after 6
Very,
rounds.
very hard.
Well, I don't know. As far as what has been presented right to this point, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I haven't had my hair ruffled. I haven't got much hair to ruffle. But I think one thing, so to Anthony's point on, say, chemistry and stuff like that, maybe there could have been a little more discussion around regulatory sort of hindrance to that type of innovation. I know as a producer, I've been doing it for close to 40 years, and we're getting fewer and fewer sorts of products. We're getting more and more issues, whether it's pests or weeds or whatever. And it seems like we've got a lot of restriction because of the regulatory environment. And somebody said, I think on the agronomy unit, Richardson ground squirrel, well, that's a big issue in probably anywhere south of Edmonton and well into Saskatchewan, that we really, at this point, we don't have an effective control for it. So it would be maybe a lack of discussion on why we haven't got access to better science. Why don't we do that? It's because somebody feels that it's hurting them or it's hurting society in general. So my view is we need to talk a little bit more about science and food security.
All right. Good. Patricia? Oh, here, take this. We'll swap.
Is it on? With respect to the funding share and the implications that the farmers or front-end producers should be funding more, I really liked, I believe it was Alice's comment in noting that there is that middle bulk that is of the roughly $48 billion canola industry that is out there. 12 billion are farm gate sales, and that difference should maybe be contributing an awful lot more. And then the implications of a non-refundable levy. I really like the commissions that have the refundable there to maintain the accountability.
Jason, anything that
Well,
raised your hackles or made your
maybe
hair all
not.
frizzy like Alan's?
maybe not particularly from today, but I'm going to be rough on the farmers here a little bit. I feel like, you know, speaking of coffee shop talk, the talk is always, well, if they do this, if they do this, if we could get that, oh man, if we could just get flea beetle protection. Well, as farmers, we have a good responsibility we have a responsibility to use good agricultural practices. I agree, reading and research and all these things are important, but if you want something that actually annoys me, it's farmers being irresponsible. Seeding canola. We all know we need canola to be out and running inside of 2 weeks to have our flea beetle protection. Well, don't seed it the 15th of April into cold, wet ground. We don't seed canola until after the long weekend in May. We want a certain ground temperature. Just an example. When you're spraying canola, use high pressure, use low droplet size or high droplet size, slow down. Be careful. Do a job when you're doing it. So many farmers go racing around and you know, I see these rogue eaters going up and down the field at 27 miles an hour with a cloud of dust that looks like a combine. And, oh, well, I don't have efficacy. Well, really?
Tell me, so after Ian Epp mentioned yesterday about 12 mile an hour and 10 gallons, that was Kim Brown also said that. You came up to me and told me what you do. Tell me what your approach is for Liberty.
Well, first of all, I don't tank mix Liberty with anything. We spray Liberty strictly on its own. If I have to spray a grass or a flea beetle control, I make an extra pass. We limit our sprayer at 10 miles an hour, and we use 15 to 18 gallons of water.
Okay. Right on. First spontaneous clap of the 2 days. Oh, I'm clapping again. Okay. All right. Now let's dig into the profitability. And so the last panel was all about agronomy. It was agronomists, so it was agronomy. Let's do a whole big picture. When you think about your canola profitability, what are the factors? And Alan, will come back to you. So pick three. I made Andrea start off with three. I'll make you start off with three things. Have you got three? Have you got your napkin?
Yeah, I've got 9.
You got 9. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's do 3, and then we'll see if the others cover off the other 6.
The first one is weather, and if we can control the weather, that makes a heck of a difference. But weather, input costs, and I'm going to go with government policy.
Weather, input costs, and government policy. Okay.
Keep it broad.
Yeah, no, those are good. This is what we want. And we're going to dig into those. Don't you worry. All right, Patricia, what are your top 3?
Very first one I had the same was weather. So I guess I'll pick a different one in my list of 9. Okay. Reliable markets. In order to be able to justify our agronomic condition or decisions, there's already more than enough risk in production due to the weather, insects, disease pressure, poor harvest conditions, variable input pricing like our fertilizer, storage risks when it comes to our canola, etc. So adding a politically motivated barrier is punitive.
Okay. Reliable markets, storage risk, and punitive barriers? Or is that part of, or it was all part of the same one?
That's part of the markets in there.
Okay. Okay. All right. And what else do you got?
And then a big one that's not mentioned is, and it's still all on our plates, is there's the industrial carbon tax, which gets passed down to our front-end producers in our fertilizer pricing. It's something we can't say no to, and it affects our transportation of our grain on our rail, on our trucks, on our fertilizer pricing, and our cost of our inputs. And yet we can't dictate what the cost of our grain is or what we can sell our grain as. We can do the best we can when it comes to the markets.
Okay, and I know your break even is 44, 44 bushels an acre, and if some of these things were fixed, you might be able to reduce your break even. Okay, good ones, Patricia. Jason?
Yeah, much the same. Obviously, weather is a huge factor. They're probably one of the biggest factors. And input costs, markets, obviously obviously there's so many geopolitical factors involved right now, but even just developing more markets for meal and just if we have a glut of meal, it doesn't help. We have so much crush capacity in Western Canada now. Yeah. There's a host there.
Okay, good. Anthony?
I'm going to be very controversial here. Okay. Greed. Farmer greed. Input greed. Everybody, we want to push rotations. We want to make the most money value. So does the next line, next line, next line. Everybody wants to do it. And when, honestly, farmers are not our own best friends when it comes to sometimes. So, yeah, input costs, but also like farmer greed. We want the new thing. We want to keep up with the Joneses. We want everything. And it's hurting ourselves. We're digging our own graves very slowly.
And do you have a third one?
I'll leave that.
Okay.
I agree with everybody else. So yeah.
Okay, so we've got so greed, but I'll go back to so weather. Would a number of you, I think all three of you mentioned weather, and Anthony, you probably would have mentioned weather, but you're taking a different turn there. So weather is a profitability factor. Input costs. Okay, so that needs to get explored because that's so broad. Government policy. Okay, and Patricia, would you put reliable markets in there, or is that different? Or maybe actually let's dig into that. So government policy, reliable markets. Is that the same point, or are we asking for two different approaches there?
It could be related if you think about it, but in my term on government policy, it was more on stuff like PMRA, making decisions on the use of various products, some of the science that we're very afraid of, stuff like that. So that would have been probably the direction I would have taken on government policy, but...
no, that's good. So yeah, the regulatory hindrance that you mentioned earlier. Okay, so that's different. So those are two separate things.
Yeah. But it could impact market development on stuff like biofuels, if you think about it, and some of the other regulatory policies. So yeah, it's two separate areas.
Okay, and the regulatory markets, reliable markets, pardon me, mixing up two things, input costs. Would you put meal in there as part of the markets thing? Yeah, I know it's separate. Yeah, you know what? For the sake of this room, let's just lump all that together because we're not going to solve that problem here. That's not what we can do in this room. And then, so we got greed. So we're going to dig into weather, we're going to dig into input costs, and we're going to dig into greed. Does that sound good? Are we missing anything?
Well, one that I didn't put down, but I think it's probably going to be a huge factor. It's been mentioned several times here, is herbicide resistance.
Yeah. Okay.
So that one we need to figure out how we target or tackle it,
Okay, so this is interesting. We spend a lot of research attention and dollars on canola diseases. It barely came up in the agronomist conversation, and it didn't make any of your top three. Is it on your list?
Oh, it is, but I think we've done such a good job on diseases, emerging diseases, crop rotation. I think from at least my perspective, it's an important issue, but because we've got some control mechanism at this point, I'm comfortable in farming with it. So yeah, it rates a little bit lower than some of the other issues that I have on here that are probably costing quite a bit more money.
Yeah, okay. Patricia, you were going to say something about disease.
Yeah, so it was on my list as well as insect resistance and variety development and chemical resistance, weeds, so the herbicide resistance in there, and soil health was also on the list, and best management practices. But they pale in comparison to having strained relationships with two of our biggest markets right now.
Okay, good. And Alan, what's the rest of your 9? Any of those that you haven't said?
Well, just as a challenge, labor. So I think to Anthony's point, we're getting bigger and bigger farms, more competition, whatever the case may be, and finding good, reliable labor to go out and spray at 12 miles per hour instead of 25.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was one. Land prices, but that goes sort of back to competition, greed. Yeah, good enough.
Okay.
We have
Anything
lots.
else you two want to put on the list? Or is it covered? It's a good list. I'll read it out one more time.
No, I think just leave it there.
Okay, I'm going to read it out one more time. And then I'm going to ask you which ones we should talk about in our coffee shop for 35 minutes. Weather, input costs. Okay, we know government policy is a profitability issue on the, like, just getting good new products in. We know reliable markets obviously are a massive issue. We're not going to talk about markets, but we know in this room that that's an issue, okay? Greed, we're going to dig into that in a second, Anthony. Herbicide-resistant weeds. And then we've got diseases, and there's a lot of them that attack canola. Variety development, soil health, insects, labor, land prices. Good list? Good list? Okay. Which ones do we want to talk about today? Like if we talked about 3, so 10 minutes each, kind of to dig into them a little bit, figure out what the people in this room can take away. Which ones should we talk about? And weather comes to mind, herbicide-resistant weeds. Have we done that to death? Is
I
there
think
more to say on that?
It's been discussed very well here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so between diseases, variety development, soil health, insects, which one of those 4 do we need to dig into in terms of new innovations, new science?
Well, it was probably the least discussed here today, but it would be soil health.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I agree. So
What do you think? Anthony?
I wouldn't mind a good discussion on varieties and discussion on trials of them.
Yeah. Okay. Patricia, what do you think of, well, that's from your list, so you must like that one. Okay, weather, input costs, greed. We're not going to do weeds. We know it's a big one, but we've done that already. Alan said, we know we've got a lot of diseases, but right now, maybe we know how to manage them, although we didn't talk about verticillium stripe, which I feel like there's some gaps
So
there.
new and emerging,
Yeah.
of course. So,
Bigger issue
yeah.
for you, Jason, maybe than Anthony. Do you have verticillium stripe?
Not yet.
Not yet. Patricia? No. Alan?
No.
No. Okay. Let's leave that one. Soil health. So and variety development. Is there something that, Patricia, that you want to talk about there specifically?
Just the need for robust varieties that
Okay.
can handle the changing conditions that we do see.
And you don't have that right now?
We have some.
Okay. Did you want to make a statement for the genetics people to take home with them today? Yeah, go for it.
they've bred the vigor out of a vigor.
Clint, did you hear that? Do you want to expand on that?
Well, I figured that would get everybody's attention anyway, but I just feel like, just like the agronomy panel, canola takes a lot of manpower, a lot of effort. I always say canola and edible beans are the same. Their biggest ambition is to die. I think it really seems that we really have to babysit canola to get it going. Until you've got a couple of true leaves on canola, it's anybody's guess as to whether it's going to survive or not, depending on economic or environmental conditions and stuff like that. And I just feel like, honestly feel like there was more vigor in our canola seed 20 years ago. I really do.
So even with seeding after May 15th and with good seed canola or flea beetle seed treatment, are you okay in that scenario, or even that is a challenge?
It certainly helps. The main reason we are pretty firm on not seeding till after the 15th or the 20th of May is to try and give our canola every advantage it has. Yeah. There's still wind, there's still cool nights, there's still lots of things that can affect, but I just feel like less than the 1st of May. So, yeah, I just feel like it's hard to get it up and going. We always, and it's the same every year, I guess, in the fact that we love to hate canola until the 15th or 20th of June, and then a cabbage leaves and it looks fantastic and starts to come on. Yeah. Then we go, oh man, that's awesome. And then you forget about your hate and carry on, right? So.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's nice to have a short memory. Okay.
So just to
You got to comment on that, Alan? Yeah, please.
Well, I was just going to say I have the same issues, but I think the take home would be we need a little bit more research on cold tolerance.
Okay. Cold tolerance. Yeah.
To get that plant so it'll get out of the ground and maybe handle cooler seeding in the spring.
Okay, so out of the weather tolerances, because weather's a big one, we've got cold tolerance, we've got heat flowering, we've got drought resistance. So cold tolerance in the spring, heat tolerance on the flowers, and then drought tolerance. Any other weather?
And frost.
Okay.
I get them all. So
And
June
hail.
June
Yeah.
20th, spring frost.
I really
this
like
year.
the diva comment when it came to canola.
Yeah.
It is a crop that needs to be handheld throughout the entire growing season.
Okay, has it always been like that, or is it getting worse?
It's getting worse, but I think we need to get a faster root development.
Okay.
And that's going to get around a lot of these issues.
Okay, what's that going to help from the weather perspective?
If you can get a deeper root faster, you can get around the later drought and heat stress because it's in the ground deeper, it's getting more ground moisture.
Yep.
Cold tolerance at least has a chance to have it's never going to have a great frost tolerance because the growing point's above ground, but at least it has a chance to do something when it's in there. And if we can seed it down that extra ½ inch or more into the ground to give us that extra chance to give it a chance to survive later on. If we're sitting at ½ inch, ½ inch, and then it's just still struggling to get out of the ground, you're never going to win.
Right. And out of all the trials we do, we can't measure root depth or root health easily, or can we?
Not in the field.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else agree that the rooting is
That's the root of the problem, for sure.
nice? I'm glad you said that, Alan.
And with respect to the seeding and managing the canola, so a general rule on our farm is we seed into the moisture we have, not the moisture we hope we had or that we think we will have. So we have actually seeded canola as deep as 1.5 inches.
Okay, I was going to ask you. 1.5 inches.
Yeah, ideal is we'd like to seed it 1/2 inch, but
Okay.
we have seeded it as 1.5 inches into the ground.
Yeah. What's your favorite seeding depth, Anthony?
1 inch, but I've done 2.
You've done 2 inches.
With a disc drill.
Okay, and that's on irrigated land?
No, that was dry land.
That was dry land. Because it's irrigated, you don't.
Irrigation, I can cheat and turn
You
the
can
water
do a
on,
half
so I can
inch.
put it ½
Yeah,
inch
or
and be fine.
sprinkle it on the surface. Yeah. Jason, what's your seeding depth?
Yeah, ½ inch if possible.
inch.
But again, too wet is more a problem than too dry. So.
Yeah, you don't want to be mucking that in. Yeah. Alan, what's your seeding depth?
Oh, 1 inch.
An inch, yeah. Okay, those are all sound within range. Input costs, where I suspect fertilizer will come in here, but maybe not. What are you getting at? Patricia, do you want to kick us off? What do we need to figure out to improve profitability on the input side?
Plan out for your operation on if you can buy it in the fall. It tends to be cheaper then rather than waiting in for the spring. We moved to granular away from the anhydrous side and picked up a bunch of fertilizer bins, and we pick it up in the fall as a way to manage ours, and we find that we can get it for $400 a ton less than if we had waited for the spring. So it's all in timing.
I heard an interesting thing from a guy from OCP. Is that the Moroccan company, fertilizer company? So I was asking him about phosphorus fertilizer, because they're a big phosphate fertilizer company based out of Morocco. And I said, what's the difference between what we do on the prairies versus what they do in other areas? Because we kind of got onto that conversation. And he said, on the prairies, farmers pretty much exclusively use monoammonium phosphate. I mean, there's others, but that's the biggest market share. And he said the difference is in Iowa, they'll just go and buy whatever the cheapest source is off the river, he says. So whatever barge pulls up the Mississippi River with whatever product, they'll just say, okay, yep, I'll take that. And then we're kind of stuck, and maybe we're stuck because that's just what our supply chain is, right? But it kind of opened my eyes that there are other ways of doing it. What do you think, Jason? You have a thought?
Well, I would just when you talked about the river, where we farm, we are a little bit hostage by the Mississippi River as well. Most of our phosphate would come up through Minneapolis, so we have to. Our cost is based on freight out of Minneapolis.
Yeah. Okay. And do you use anything besides monoammonium phosphate?
We have started.
What?
I can't remember. So I can't tell you.
Is it just the straight phosphate analysis? I can't remember what it is. 040 something?
It's the stuff from in the blue bags.
Okay. The stuff in the blue bags. Awesome. Okay. So on input costs, I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole. So what are the input costs? And Patricia, I don't know whether you finished your thought, but what? So we'll move on. You three. What's the input cost issue that could be solved? Is there a solution to lower input costs or lower input costs per bushel? I guess is probably a better way of putting it.
Like for our farm, we have the combination of dry land irrigation, and so when you guys spend $80 an acre in seed costs, no matter what the potential yield is, it hurts a lot unless you're going to get that 40 plus bushel turnaround. Like, why would I put it on the dry land? And so it's not even going to be a profitable crop. Yeah. So you got to find a way to have a seed source that's competitive, and there is nothing besides the hybrids. Open pollinated just is not worth it, and it's double the seed cost of a certified wheat.
I don't know what we can do about the seed costs. I think we're kind of stuck with them, which is why we're seeing a lot of work on lower seeding rates. But so if we go down the line of your costs, so we talked a bit about fertilizer. There's pest management, obviously. Labor, but let's just stick with the production of the crop. Is there any wiggle room, or how do we make it more profitable?
So if we move to the precision ag concept, you can manage the use of the fertilizer that you need. So if you're targeting a 60 bushel canola crop, you need X amount of NPK in order to yield that 60 bushel. If you understand your fields, you understand your zones, and you have a prescription in there, you can manage that so you can not put extra fertilizer where you don't need it and make sure you do have that little bit of extra where you do need it. So then you end up with a uniform emergence, uniform crop, and the plants can work together to perform well.
And
yes.
do we need more work on that? Okay, yeah, Anthony, jump in. But I want to know, we'll go to you, and then we'll come back and see if we need more work on that. Anthony.
Yeah, I just basically wanted to continue with that. I was saying just choose better acres, not all of your acres. So if you're going to choose the ones that are going to be profitable, not seed wall to wall.
Have you taken any acres out of production?
Tons.
Tons. And what do you do with them?
Put it to grass.
Grass. Okay. And then sell it to livestock producers, or you just?
I have neighbors that they are free to use it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to make anything off it anyway, so they can put their cows out there.
Interesting. Okay. Right on. Patricia, back to you. And so just on that that thought about the variable rate? Is there research we need, or is it just application of what we know?
There needs to be the understanding that it's not one size fits all. And so some individuals and locations may not need the precision ag concept because their fields are relatively uniform. But it's really understanding what your own Petri dish is out there, because it's not a uniform set of agar. It's variable.
Remind me to ask you about that later. I've got a lot of notes here. Okay, anybody else want to dig into the input costs, Alan?
Well, I think to take away from, say, a researcher perspective here is we need a little better nitrogen use efficiency with these crops. So I don't know if we're ever going to be able, like a bag of seed of canola, it's probably relatively fixed. People are paying it. Nothing ever goes down.
Yeah.
Fertilizer, sort of the same thing. So how do you sort of deal with that? Figure out plants that maybe don't use quite as much fertilizer, or they use it a little bit more efficiently. And seed, God, yeah, I don't know. Start developing crops that'll withstand even more extreme climate variability. So maybe the access to Junctia, canola, that sort of thing to get into some of the browner, or some of my country, tougher soils.
When you think 10 years into the future, given what you know about the climate and the profitability of canola, well, in 10 years, do you think you'll be growing the same amount of canola, or what's your forecast?
Well, I've always dreamt, so it's like, okay, if you're going to shoot for the moon, is it going to be canola? And I'm kind of a whole different sort of a mindset. I'm looking, if climate change or whatever becomes consistent, we get longer growing seasons, why aren't we looking at beans and corn, two completely different crops, but beans are pretty damn efficient. That makes money. So that's, if I'm looking at survivability 10 years from now, if I'm growing corn and beans, maybe I'm winning the race. But then if I can also have the choice of 150 bushel canola, then my head turns. So that could be an industry target.
Greed? Is that what you're... We only need
but you have to-
44, Alan. Come on.
Well, but costs keep going up.
What's your break even right now?
No,
Yield?
mine is about 36.
36,
So it's
okay.
a little bit less. I just paid the fertilizer bill.
Okay, let's turn the question. Everyone can answer this. But so what needs to happen to keep your canola acres where they are 10 years from now? I know that's maybe pick a year into the future. What do we need?
So 10 years from now, I need that reliability of yield. I'm going to have that 50 bushel yield. It's got to be the normal, or even higher. I could be more into 60, but I think incrementally, it's either going to get down to how much I'm producing, or can I shave inputs to make it cheaper, eh? It's a cost of production is really what it is.
Yeah.
So it's either higher yield or lower input, and probably higher yield. It's probably been sort of the model that we've worked on. I think we got to keep it going.
Is it realistic to get higher?
Can you get there?
Higher yield with the same inputs? Is that realistic?
That would be probably ideal. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But is it? Good
Yeah,
point.
right.
Or market development. Get me something that utilizes half the canola crop, make it a scarce commodity, then all of a sudden price goes up. So I don't know if that's the role of this group
Yeah.
here, but that market diversification could very well influence what I'm going to be growing in 10 years as well.
Increased demand.
On that comment about more fertilizers that can increase yield, I can grow more bushels, but the extra fertilizer, I'm actually not making as much.
Okay. So you're at your MERN or whatever.
I'm at when I target 70, 75 bushels, that's the number that's going to give me a solid return for the fertilizer I'm putting in. I could go higher. I could put more water in. I could do more fertilizer, but it's not making me anymore. Yeah. All it is just more upfront costs. So there is a balance. So the 150 bushels, I'm sure they could eventually get there, but how much nitrogen and everything else is going to take, and is that actually going to pay? And that's where we're going to have to find out in hopefully 5 years, not 10 that we get there. But
All right. So what do we need, Patricia and Jason, for research to help with crop inputs management costs?
Well, just to add to what we're already discussing here, I think as a producer, I do everything I can to grow a good crop. We're VR, we do the whole thing. I think consistency, like what Alan says, I do find inputs high, but that's fine if we have consistency. And I'm going to compare canola to corn. We grow a lot of corn on our farm. A bag of corn seed is expensive also. But there's guarantees in a bag of corn seed. With canola, it's not consistent.
Guarantees.
Well, there's drought tolerance, cold tolerance, all that built into corn seed. They've done a lot of genetic work. Like, for example, we feel we're pretty much guaranteed 150 bushel an acre of corn. And it goes up from there. Like in 21, 23, we had 2 inches of rain. We averaged 150 on our corn and approaching 0 on canola.
Do you think a lot of the canola, those traits that we want are actually there, but it's just not something we put on the label or test?
I don't know, but I've wanted to say that for a long time, that I just feel like if we could have if the breeders could build that consistency into a bag of canola seed, it's fine that it's $800. But if we knew that bag of canola seed was going to give us 50 or 60 or 70 or whatever the number is, bushels per acre, we can build a model around that, right?
Anything more on inputs? Okay, Anthony, we're going to talk greed for 4 minutes and 36 seconds. Because I want you were controversial in making that statement, but I want to know, what's underlying that? What do we need to sort out? And why is that a profitability issue for you?
okay, I had 2 points when I said greed. One was we're corporate side, input side. We've discussed that. So I'll go back to the other one, which is the controversial one, is farmer greed with tight rotations, cutting seed rates to dangerous levels, in my opinion, for some crops. We're spending too much money on equipment and team up the neighbors. Everything's getting bigger, more expensive. And even if you did buy something used, it is still 10 times more than it was 10, 15 years ago. And well, exactly. And our input side, our labor power machinery, if you're an accountant, has gone up $50 to $100 easily, no matter who you are. And like this year, when we're growing record yield canola and $600 a ton, and everyone is still thinking like, am I going to make it to next year? And it's because we have spent more than can make.
So from your perspective, your business, does it matter if someone else has a tight rotation or cuts the seeding rate?
To me, no. That's their farm, that's their business. They do what they need to do, and I'll do what I need to do.
Yeah. But the equipment thing, that's different. I mean, that actually is something that is affecting you, or maybe all four of you, right? You're nodding in agreement. So what's happened? Why is it? Is it just global demand, the cost of steel, tariffs? What's happening?
Regulatory stuff on the backside of the emissions.
Yeah.
When I started farming, you can buy a combine, you could trade it for $100,000. Now you're paying $160,000 a year just in payments. Well, there's no trade anymore unless you're a guy that can flip an entire farm fleet every single year. And so you're buying stuff that's a couple years old, it's got a couple thousand hours, and it costs a couple bucks an acre just in repairs and on top of your payments. So tech has come a long way, and machines have come a long way, and it's really brought down the labor that's required, but there's a dollar cost to it.
So if we think about investing in people and labor and skills in agriculture, do we need a whole new, well, maybe the the mechanic crew out there is sufficient to keep older equipment going longer? Is that a need?
Well, the new stuff breaks down. Every color breaks down. There's nothing that's perfect. Yeah. So if you spend $1 million plus on a new combine, you might still mechanic out there for 5 days a week just trying to get things going, and there might only be software issues.
Why are you laughing, Patricia?
Or you might be demoing a new combine because you think you're going to buy it, and it ends up doing one up and down on the field and breaks down and sits in your field for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So then you know that you're not buying that color.
Didn't go yellow.
Oh, hey. Okay, yellow. All right.
The cost of steel in there, and I mean, you look at the new drills out there, it's on average for a seed drill, it's $10,000 a foot.
Right.
So you're looking at an 80-foot drill, you're looking at $800,000 for a drill. When it comes to the tank, if you want a 950 bushel tank, it's more or less a $950,000 tank that's going in with it. So you're almost putting in $2 million, and that's just your drill, and you're using that for 3 weeks in a year.
Yeah. Is there any way around that?
Trade negotiations, less tariffs on our steel, so that they can actually manufacture it less and sell it to us less.
Could it be autonomous farming? But if we're looking at that,
So that saves your labor, but not your machinery costs. In fact, it'll probably increase your machinery costs.
if you could get 10 robot seeders, I don't know, thinking a little bit weirdly here at this point, but it may be a little bit constrained based on the number of acres.
Maybe we need
farming.
a canola meal-based polymer that's like carbon fiber that can replace steel. And then we can make all of our equipment out of that.
Now you're thinking, and
Or every
do it
farmer,
in-house, do it in Canada.
every farmer needs their own biodiesel plant on farm so that they can dump a bunch of canola in through there and make their own diesel so that they can run their equipment.
We have on-farm anhydrous green ammonia. Maybe we can also make renewable diesel. Not the worst idea I've ever heard.
Renewable diesel and eliminate some of the climate equipment that's on the machinery, or give us access to computer software so we can delete it. That's a big problem on new equipment. I've had plenty of issues, and I have to get out tech who comes out with a computer to plug in to go, okay, code, see it, erase, and it's a $500 bill every time. So that if we're making biodiesel at farm gate using polymer or created equipment, we're going to have to look at the climate friendly side of it too. Or not climate friendly, but the emissions part of it.
Okay, I have to ask this question here. So we've got companies, this came up earlier in the day, and it'll come up tomorrow as well. Startup companies, they have a new idea, they have a new product. Is it fitting a purpose or a need? We'll get into that tomorrow. Have any of you done product testing of new tech, new ideas on your farms? Has anyone approached you about, or even research?
Yeah.
Yes.
So researchers, have they, and are you open, we're going to talk a bit about that because that's kind of a big deal. It came up earlier today. Are you open to that?
100%.
Anthony?
Okay. This is something that came a couple years ago where they were using a microwave emitter to put it on the pivot, and they were actually testing the water moisture level before the pivot went across, and it was the first step before you went to VR irrigation. And so they came out and they installed it, and it was really neat stuff. But now it's got to the point where now it is actually a commercial available product. You can go out and buy a VR and it will scan your field as the pivot goes across and
That
trims
is
on.
cool.
And so I've done that kind of stuff. I've done other stuff with
Yeah.
some of the computer stuff with when apps were first coming up with doing record keeping. I tried a whole bunch of different ones just to try them out and see if
Yeah.
it worked and didn't work. And I like that kind of stuff.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason?
Yeah, we try to cooperate on plots and things like that, and have a lot of accessibility for local researchers to do their work. I love adopting new technology. We've got some VR pivots and things like that, and we've got a new planter with our corn planter has electric drive and all, some IRHD down pressure and all those things, and we have done some work with Deere on developing some of that stuff, and yeah, I think it's great. I think we have to help.
I'm coming back to it with a question B on that, but how about you two? Have you done product testing for new kind of startup, or just more the generic kind of?
Pretty generic.
What is it?
I don't just seed trials and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I did have a researcher ask me about soil. He wanted to come to the farm. It was on Phanomyces. So I said, come out and dig out as much as you want. So that one, we haven't sealed the deal yet, but that would be a little different form of research.
A Phanomyces
that would help
treatment.
him.
Okay, a Phanomyces treatment. Yeah, okay.
Well, my soil is full of it, so
Yeah.
take it and grow some peas and figure out how to grow field peas with heavy disease. Anyhow.
Patricia?
My farm group consists of 3 engineers, 2 of us with master's degrees. So our research cooperation with respect to the startups have been, for the most part, along the lines of equipment and prototype equipment in there. We don't own our own drill. We use a prototype drill every year.
A different one every year?
Different one every year, and we're running usually 2 to 3 years technology in advance of when it's coming out.
Yeah. All right, and so here's my second question. Do you get paid for it, and should you get paid for it since you're providing a lot of value back?
Yeah, go for it.
As such, we don't get paid normally, but I do believe that the value does come back to us through the availability of service and just how we get treated by our local dealer. I would say, they take really good care of us.
Okay, well, good. Obviously, there's value in that. Anthony, do you get paid, or should you?
No, I don't think you should for that kind of stuff. Because, like you said, if it's going to bring value eventually, you can see what's coming and tell them straight up, this is stupid, don't do it. Or you can say, this is awesome, let's keep going, keep me involved. Saying that, I also rent out plots to different chemical companies or seed companies. Then, yeah, I want to be paid for that because I'm losing ground and I got to work around you. So, depending on what the situation is, yes, I want to be paid, but there's a lot of times I think, no, this is cool, I want to see what this goes.
We do get paid for plot ground.
Oh, yeah, okay. We're doing variety trials. Yeah, okay. How about you two?
So when it comes to plot ground, we do get paid for plot ground for
Yeah.
any of the trials we've done there. And then, as I said, we don't own our own drill. We
Yeah.
indirectly get paid by the fact that I've got a $2 million piece of equipment I can use.
Right, and I was just going to say you shared the cost, so that's a big value. Yeah, Alan?
It's the same as the others. So
Yeah.
you get a free bag of seed, whatever. There's a bit of a trade-off, but typically you're benefiting by having them out there.
Okay,
And then at the same time, they're benefiting
Yeah.
from the education and the fact of the experience and education that us as farmers bring.
okay. Right, so you're both benefiting,
Yeah.
so you don't necessarily need to get paid or pay them. We got 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Does anybody want to ask the farmers a question? Yeah, go ahead, Jaminesh. Their mics, yeah, just use the stand mic there.
Yeah, I have seen sometimes some reports in the canola that by researchers, they report on crop pathogen surveillance models and systems that are funded by the federal government or the provincial or with farmers levy money through CARP. How much do you use these models to protect your crops?
Jaminesh, can you repeat that again?
how much do you use crop pathogen surveillance models or systems to protect your crops that are reported every
To
time?
predict the yields,
Yeah.
like the weather stations and that kind of thing? Yeah, so did anybody use weather stations to predict yield? Jason?
Well, I don't know about yield, but we use weather stations for recording and data.
With the water probe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just use a water probe, but
Right.
most times it's going to be long-term farm average, Olympic 5-year averages type thing. We were talking about this before too. It's just how do you do a budget for 5 years when the last 5 years have been so dry, and then we'll go into the next 5 years what might be on the wet side, and you do what you can. So the models are going to be great, but as a farm gate, I'm not going to use them.
We just have to use them for our potato operation. We have to have all our data submitted every month.
Okay.
It's the same deal. I just kind of look at long-term average. So when I'm making any decision, I have to kind of go with what I know. So whether I'll look at 30 years, I'll look at my great-grandfather who was in there and it was wet, and then grandpa, we've had such variability, but you even it out. It's like, okay, if I'm going out there, this is probably a good target to play with, and put your inputs in accordingly, and then cross your fingers and hope you're wrong on the right way.
Okay, we have a minute. When I asked you to be part of this panel, and I really appreciate you doing this, was there something that you said, I really want to say this, I hope Jay asks me this question? Was there something that you really wanted to say that you didn't say?
Not me.
I think we did talk about it, but rotation. That's always one that seems to be swept under the rug.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of crops. So
I can say that.
Yeah. Anthony?
The last panel of the agronomists, they were saying logistics trumps agronomy, and it's true for the most part, and it's one thing we as a farmer should be a lot more conscious about, but that kind of just brings back how every farm is totally different than the farm even beside them.
Yeah.
So there's no one fit all.
That's a really important point. Yeah, every farm is different. Okay, and on the note of profitability, every farm or every field, every section within a field is different profitability-wise. Yeah, okay. Patricia, last word.
And that comes with the soil health side. So we understand our macronutrients very well. There's been a lot of research in there. We're moving into understanding our micronutrients really well in terms of the nutrient side. Let's go into the aerobic and anaerobic microorganisms that are within our soils and understanding those and what we need to grow a good canola crop, what that means for the next crop that's going to come on there. So in-depth understanding of the micronutrients and the microorganisms within our soils.
I feel like that's like the outer space of agriculture, is what exactly is going on underground. From our discussion about roots earlier, I mean, that seems basic. But what are all those interactions that are going on? What's the nutrient use? I think that's really kind of an exciting area that could produce lots of interesting discoveries.
But look at where we've moved in the last 10 years from when looking at the macronutrients and the precision ag and the variable rate. And on our farm, we saw a 10% yield increase just by moving to variable rate and putting the right nutrients in the right place, the right time.
Right on. We've gone over time, but we could talk a long time with you four. We're going to wrap up. So I have one concluding thought for the day. Curtis, it has your name beside it, but I'm going to read it for you if you're still here. Thank you to everybody online and in the room for your attention today. Also, big thanks to all of our sponsors, the three big ones, BASF, Bayer, and Corteva. For those of you attending tomorrow's Canola Innovation Day, we get started at 7:45 with breakfast, so slightly earlier, and opening remarks at 8:45, which we can all handle. Have a great evening. CCA is collecting CEUs. There should be a QR code up on the screen shortly. Thanks, everybody.